Hello everyone, my name is Josh and this is Whimsical and Interesting Musings. And today, because I've had quite the boom of my Inside Number 9 video, I'm going to do a season by season breakdown of every episode on Inside Number 9. I won't be divulging any spoilers, but I will be highlighting the entirety of the backstory of the majority of the episodes of every season from season 1 to season 7, and hopefully that will be enough to hook you into this new show. And if you're a fan, let me know what your favourite episode is down in the comments. So starting off, we have the episode of Sardines. Rebecca and Jeremy are hosting an engagement party and they decide to play the classic upper class game of Sardines. And it is played by a lot of upper class people in England because none of us have ever heard of it, have we, until this episode. So, unlike hide and seek, where you have to spread out and hide in all sorts of different places and try to avoid being seen or heard by the person actually trying to seek you out, the objective of the game is to essentially hide in one place, like a cupboard or a wardrobe, or a particular room in a house, and if you happen to find someone in that particular space, you basically have to cramp up inside of the inside of the wardrobe or the room or the cupboard or wherever it happens to be, and basically wait there until more come in, until you actually become like a pack of sardines all clustered together in this one space. And this episode does present the equal levels of awkward as one would assume from such a game. So the entirety of the game is basically focused around Rebecca and her brother David, who is essentially all hiding in this wardrobe with a guy named Ian. And what this particular entire game basically turns into is a series of awkward revelations about various different people, which eventually escalates into something quite sinister. And the reason why I looked off just then is I actually do have notes on every episode, so I'm actually trying to remember each and every single one of them and how it all breaks down. But yeah, this particular episode is a really good one. It's very, simply, it's like a play and how it's structured. It starts off pretty much simply as just these people having this game of sardines. It's nice and light-hearted. But then as the story goes on, characters like Rebecca begin to, stuff starts to unravel about them and about their insecurities and about how they feel towards the person that in the case of Rebecca, she kind of starts to have second thoughts about the wedding. Like her wedding actually takes place on the 9th of November, which is, if you see it in our calendar, it spells out 9/11, which kind of, it's not a very good sign when your wedding date kind of spells 9/11. So yeah, she starts to realise that, oh crap, there's something not quite right here that the stars are trying to tell me, and I'm clearly only just noticing it now. And that I thought was pretty funny. But there's comedy moments like that. But as the story goes on, there's a much darker plot starting to unravel, and the twist, I'm not going to dare divulge what that twist is because that will ruin the episode. So if you can, I would check out Sardines. It's a great first outing into this weirdly wonderful series. The second episode is called A Quiet Night In, and it follows a group of burglars who are trying to rob this upper-class modernist man's house of a particular piece of fine art, which seems to be quite an odd thing, because it seems to be just nothing, but the burglars have to basically steal this item and replicate it just so they could have it for a lot of money, essentially. And the whole entirety of the episode is basically framed around them trying to get this piece of art and trying to get away scot-free without being noticed or seen. So the majority of the episode is mostly no talking, no lines of dialogue whatsoever, and it's just these characters trying to get this piece of art. And it's pretty much in keeping with the classic Charlie Chaplin or the classic Lauren Hardy silent era shorts, essentially, where it's mostly told through characters' physicalities, and the humor is mostly physical and very incidental, kind of like a cartoon. And it is really funny. I found myself laughing at this one quite a bit, but it also has quite the amazing twist at the heart of it. If you want to find out what that twist is, check out the episode. The third episode is called Tom and Jerry, and it's Jerry spelt with a G, and it stars Reece Shearsmith as Tom and Gemma Arterton as Jerry. Tom is an ex-primary school teacher, and he is an aspiring writer, and his wife Jerry is an actress who is on up to become, this Broadway star, this West End star, and he kind of feels a bit jealous of that. But that isn't the main focus of the story. What really sets this chain of even interesting and weird events into motion is that a homeless person by the name of Miggs shows up at Tom's doorstep and wants to crash. Ash by the name of Miggs, and Miggs, played by Steve Pemberton, starts off as a relatively nice, charming and friendly guy, but as his stay starts to become a little bit more, frequent, he begins to show a much more sinister and eerily, humorously sinister side. And this episode is great. This episode really just basically shows what Reece Shearsmith and Steve Pemberton can do as writers, and basically take this very basic story, which in essence kind of could almost be read as basically a reason to do a pun of the word Tom and Jerry. But what's very interesting is that the characters are actually very well drawn, with Tom basically being this guy who, very slowly throughout the course of the episode, he's very neat, he's very tidy, keeps a very nice house, he lives with, Jerry, who's, very keen on image and keen on everything else, and keeping everything nice and clean and tidy. But as the episode goes on, his hygiene starts to decline, his house starts to get cluttered, he starts to let his beard grow out to the point where it's literally like a wizard's beard, and it seriously does get really out of control, and you begin to realise who's the puppet and who's the puppeteer in this relationship between Miggs and Tom. And there is a twist, like a lot of these now, we're sensing a theme here. But there is a twist, and I'm not going to reveal it because you need to see the episode. It's a good one. The first three, I definitely will say, are the strongest in terms of story with twists and turns. But yeah, I'd highly recommend this one. It's called Tom and Jerry, and it's a cracker, so please give it a watch. The second one, I'm just going to get up my notes here. The fourth one, is called Last Gasp. When a famous celebrity comes to visit a dying child who has a very serious illness, he suddenly basically drops dead after a supposed brain aneurysm from blowing up a balloon. And when this person dies, instead of actually feeling in mourning and feeling dreadful that this horrible event has happened during this Make-A-Wish kind of foundation type charity thing for this poor dying child, it turns into basically who can make the biggest bid for his dying breath, literally, hence why it's called Last Gasp. But this episode is not really the most well rated, it's not really the most well received, but I actually found this one to be really hilarious, especially when you look at, Steve Pemberton and Reece Shearsmith's other works like League of Gentlemen and PsychoVille, which is another good one I'd recommend watching. It's a really good show, so definitely check that one out. It's another one with a long continuous story. And this episode was pretty funny. I like the fact that all these people, all these insane people, including the parents who should be caring for their daughter, is basically turning into these money grubbing nitwits, essentially, if I can say such a nice thing. But yes, it's not such a nice thing, but yeah, it's a tame thing. But yes, I definitely really do like this episode. It's very funny, it has great characters, it doesn't really have a twist as much as people would think this time around, so we're breaking the pattern a little bit here. But it is a good one, it is funny, it does have the trademark, Reece Shearsmith and Steve Pemberton style of humour where it's almost nervous laughter that you've got going on inside you when you're watching it, because you're kind of thinking to yourself, we should not find this funny, but we are, kind of. And that's something that they do very well, so they're real geniuses at that kind of comedy, so they really show that in this particular episode. And it's called Last Gasp, and I would highly recommend that one too. The fifth one is called The Understudy. When a production of Macbeth is going on at the local theatre, an understudy is basically wishing to play the part. And will he resort to more than just standing on the sidelines in order to get the role? Oh, and is there more to this particular performance? And are there more parallels to the play than meets the eye? Well, you have to find out and watch the episode yourself in order to get the full scoop. This episode is another one that wasn't really that well rated when it initially premiered, but I think personally this is still a good one. It still manages to really keep itself very contained. And what I didn't say in my last video was that every episode is centered around the number 9 in some way, or at least centered, in a place that is either an address, a street, or any kind of establishment like a restaurant or a nightclub. It always centers around the number 9, and that's why it's called Inside Number 9. And this particular episode was really good. I like the fact that the majority of the humour comes from how awkward it can be, because Julia Davis is in it. She plays a lesbian stagehand who has been accused of, flirting with the actresses and especially the understudies on stage. So that was funny. Julia Davis is a great actress. She's in stuff like Gavin and Stacey and Nighty Night. She's a fantastic actress. She's really funny, and I recently saw her in a TV show called Jam, which is another sketch comedy thing, but it's a little bit more surreal and a little bit more dark, and I definitely really dug it. So yeah, that was really good, and I would highly recommend this one. There is a twist to this one too, and I don't want to divulge what it is, but I will most definitely say watch the episode. The 6th and final episode for this particular lineup is called The Harrowing, when a teenager by the name of Katie gets asked to babysit in a local manor house. Her and the residents of the house basically have a job to look after this dying person who's on life support. But is there more to this twist than meets the eye, as the residents are more than quirky? They're quirky, they're mysterious and ooky. They're the Addams Family. No, they're only joking. No, they are really quirky and very strange, and they're played by Reece Shearsmith and Helen McCrory, the late great Helen McCrory of Peaky Blinders, Penny Dreadful, and The Woman in Black, the Angel of Darkness fame. She's a fantastic actress. She was a fantastic actress, and she is absolutely amazing in this role. She plays this kind of Valeria Watt, kind of Morticia Addams type character, and it's really a lot of fun to kind of plays very quirky, very offbeat, very off the wall type character, and not take herself too seriously in this role. And it is really funny, and I also like the exaggerated slang that most of the teenagers say in this episode. Like, I was being ironical and all that stuff. Like, you can really tell that this was written by much older men who don't understand teenagers today at all. But it's funny, it's amusing, and it's amusing in that quirky way that Steve Pemberton and Reece Shearsmith likely do. And I would definitely say this season overall has a lot of winners. I really do like a lot of the episodes in this one. So if you like this review, or if you like this video, and you want to see more Inside Number 9 breakdowns of every series, I'd happily oblige, because I've got my iPad here and I can literally look up the episodes and remember which ones there were. But if you want to see more episodes, if you want to see more series breakdown and me go into further more detail about various different events and ideas, or maybe have different analyses for a certain episode, I would happily oblige. I hope you like this video, and I hope you're having a good day. Hey, all the best.